All right. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And first, I'd like to recognize if there's any visitors here that are here for any other business than what's on our agenda, feel free to come and address this board. And welcome. And I guess the next thing on our agenda is election of officers. We are missing one board member, but we have more than we had last time, so.
Mr. Chairman, if you would like me to, I can open the floor for these two nominations. So for this board, we do elect a chairman and a vice chair to serve a one-year term. Chairman in this format would serve as the meeting director, make sure that we keep time and that we proceed through the agenda as proposed and as adopted. The vice chair in this role would simply serve as in the chairman's role in the absence. We do not have a secretary, as Melissa serves as this board's secretary to take those minutes. So
Very appreciative of that.
yeah, that's right. So at this time, I would like to open the floor for nominations for the position of chairman.
I'd like to nominate Josh Beals for chairman.
Josh, you accept the nomination for chairman?
Yes, I'll accept the nomination for chairman.
Any other nominations for chairman? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And at this time, I will take nominations for the position of vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Danny Brewer.
Danny, do you accept the nomination for vice chair?
I very much so do.
All right, any other nominations for the position of vice chair? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you, Mr. Brewer, thank you, Mr. Beals, for your participation in the board.
Excellent.
Okay,
Okay, moving on, we've got minutes from January 25th of 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I've had a chance to look at these minutes from January the 25th, and I make a motion that we accept them.
Mr. Brewer makes a motion to accept the minutes of January 25th, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries, minutes are approved. And we have new business is a request for a conditional use permit for an urban farm in an R1 zone. And this is for Ruan Chang, and the address is 214 Laurel Drive. And we don't have counsel tonight, I take it.
correct, so I will swear in the witness.
All right. And just a reminder, the Board of Adjustments is a quasi-judicial body, and all rulings are final. Any appeals to the Board of Adjustments rulings must be filed with the Circuit Court within 30 days of the meeting, or the ruling. Thank you. Okay, great. And, yes, so do you want to give any staff report related to this, or?
I can give just a brief. So of course, all notices have been sent as required. You will see an overhead view of the property on the screen. So this property is located on the corner of, actually I'm gonna put some streets on here. So it's on the corner of Woodford Avenue and Laurel Drive. Just for some perspective, I will zoom out just a little bit, and this is the kind of the back side of Clay Drive. So this is Dairy Queen, And the old Fennel Furniture Store is this building. I think this is a hand therapy building, kind of along Richmond Road and Clay Drive. Sonic would be right here. Again, access to this is really off of Richmond Road and Woodford Avenue here.
Can you not, does that access off of Ellipse Street as well, Laurel Drive?
It does.
It does, okay.
Yep, so if I zoom out just a little more, so of course, this is the Richmond Road side, and now I'm gonna take some of this stuff off my map. So this is the Richmond Road side, and then Laurel Drive connects all the way down here to Ellipse Street.
Perfect.
It is an R1 zone, and quite simply, our regulations state that urban farms are conditionally permitted in R1 zone, which is why we are here this evening. And by definition, an urban farm is a parcel of land managed and maintained by an individual or group to grow and harvest food crops and/or commercial crops to be sold for profit.
I was going to ask what the distinction would be requiring a conditional use versus, just having a garden for
garden.
personal use.
Yes. And so I have discussed that with Ms. Chang, and that is the goal here, is to have some sales. And so I think in her presentation, she'll be able to make those points.
Wonderful, okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, please come on up. You'll have to come up to one of the microphones. And
You can come out here, it'll be fine. And I will ask you to raise your right hand, and you're gonna swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear. Should I repeat the whole
No,
sentence? or
that's fine.
Okay.
You're fine, yep. And you could, if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ruwen Cham. My address is 214 Laurel Drive in Berea.
And you can just continue with your presentation then.
Okay. So thank you all for being here to hear my request for this urban farm. What I plan to do is I want to make a living by growing and selling organic food, organically grown food, in my quarter-acre yard in town, which is a very small space. And the reason I want to do this is because I want to improve the health of myself, my family, my community, and also the local ecosystem. So I have 3 goals for doing this. I have a health goal is to improve the health of my family and my community, and then I have financial goal is to make right now my goal is $10,000, but I was told by some people at farmers market maybe that's a too high a goal. I don't know. I don't know how much I'm gonna make until I try it. But I do want to sell my surplus, the part that my family and my neighbors couldn't eat. I will sell it to the farmers market. And then the ecological goal is I would not add any chemical fertilizer or spray to my yard. So I hope to use organic farming skills to improve soil fertility over time. And also support pollinators and beneficial insect population. So that is my goal. The production process, basically you can see the 3 parts on the slide here. So that will be the 3 main plots of garden. We'll have the south garden. The south is the down direction, so that will be the and then we have the west garden, then we have the northeast garden. So for these gardens, I will have permanent in-ground bed. The bed will be 3.5 feet wide, and the length varies, depends on the space available. And then the path will be a foot wide. So this is the whole structure. And the crop I'm mainly gonna grow, it will be crops, of course, first my family really enjoys to eat, like tomatoes, cucumbers, green pepper, and also such as green leafy greens like lettuce, kale, radish. So this, so that is maybe sweet corns too. I have a really long list of crop I'm gonna grow. And what it will look like year-round is year-round there'll be something growing in the bed, whether it's a cover crop or cash crop, and there will be permanent bed. So it will not be a lot of changes in terms of the production process. It will look basically the same year-round, just different crop growing. And in terms of selling, my main sales outlet will be the farmer's market. I already got approved as a vendor in the farmer's market, which I'll start selling in June because right now I still have a full-time job. I would not be able to do this full-time until May. So my earliest selling time probably will be in June. So that's the first one. And the second sales outlet probably will be local restaurant. I will deliver to them. And then if I still have extra produce during growing season, when all the squashes came in, all the zucchinis came in, and then I will probably sell through Facebook Marketplace or Facebook groups. Then that would means probably people will come to my driveway or my porch to pick up produce by appointment. So that would be my that'll be how I'm gonna sell it. I think the key question here is how would it impact my neighbors? In terms of the production process, like how I grow vegetables, I don't think it will be any new impact because I always had a garden in my yard ever since I moved here. Andy, as my neighbor, know that ever since I moved here, I really enjoy working outside in the garden. So in this case, the only difference is it will be a bigger garden, but the growing method will be the same. And I think one potential impact is if people come to my porch, my place to pick up produce. What I want to do is I want to limit people only come through the driveway that's close to Richmond, which is the driveway that Amanda right now is pointing at. In this case, I have a really long space for people to actually park on the driveway and get things and exit conveniently without disturbing neighborhood traffic or the parking space. Let me think. A potential benefit, I think, for my neighbors will be I will have a lot of fresh produce that's organically grown, and I will be more than happy to share the abundance. So this is my whole plan. I welcome you all if you all have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
So just for some perspective, I would like to add, there's a couple lines that I added to this aerial map. So, so this gray space that's outlined in purple is the, about the area, the garden area. This black line is a 10-foot right-of-way. So as you see, there are no sidewalks along either of these streets. So one thing that I identified with the property owner is obviously we want to make sure that those crops aren't out in the city's right-of-way. And then this line, the green line, is a 25-foot building setback line. So, and more or less, I wanted to explain that to the property owner so that she could understand where any structures may or may not be placed. So just, I know that graph's a little busy, so I wanted to just explain that.
Thank you.
Amanda, are there specific conditions described in the definition of urban farm?
There are not.
Okay.
And, I think when it was put in the regulations, a few things that when I read back on the previous approval for the urban farm, which I spoke to her about, was, a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that we addressed, again, was how does it impact the neighborhood? are we going to have people coming to this business? And I think that, again, as she said, in her case, it's going to be by appointment only. I think that's a little bit different in the conditions that were put on, the previous one, because a lot of that discussion was very much related to having on-site training and classes for, not only the garden establishment and growth and making sure that they had people there to work the gardens as a community type learning center, but I think it was also for that community engagement for the food. So that was a lot of the discussion in the past.
This is on Adams Street,
On
and that's
Adams
the
Street,
only other one we have that I'm
It is the
aware.
only approved one that we currently have, correct?
What, I seem to recall livestock was also
Well, so
involved in the Adams Street.
since you mentioned that, I do have one public comment, and it actually addresses livestock. So if you'd like for me to, I can read the public comment and then address those comments that were made.
Sure.
So we did get one letter. So of course, just so you know, we open this to public comment. The public is allowed to submit comments to us if they cannot attend the meeting. So it says, "To whom it may concern, thank you for taking the time to read my comments. I have some reservations about the proposed zone change." I will stop right there and just say it's not a zone change, it's a conditional use permit. So the zone will remain R1 single family dwelling. This meeting is very specifically to get just a conditional use permit to have that urban farm in that zone. Anyway, I have some reservations about the proposed zone change from R1 to urban farm at 214 Laurel Drive. I have concerns that the proposal could grow from a vegetable and ornamental garden to include farm animals. Although I have no knowledge or my concern, I do not want to see that door opened. The lot size is another concern, as there is not much space for what I see for an urban farm, but that is not for me to decide how someone should use their property. There's also not a huge area that separates the property of the proposed zone change to my property at 212 Laurel Drive. Will greenhouses or perhaps other temporary structures fall under the requirements of being 5 feet off the property line? Thank you for listening to my concerns. And this came from Lloyd Rusty Whittemore at 212 Laurel Drive, which is the property just to the south. So to address those concerns, our ordinance is very specific about farm animals, and it is very specific to state that you must have 1 acre that is dedicated to an animal unit, is how it's actually defined. And in that animal unit, you can have 25 chickens, or you can have 4 cows, or whatever the number is. And it designates a certain number of livestock or farm animals per acre. In this case, the only option that this resident or property owner would have is the possibility of getting a chicken permit from the codes office that would allow 6 laying hens, no roosters, because that is the only exemption to that animal requirement, and that would just be its own separate permit, unless the board decided to put that as a condition, that they could not have that for some reason. I think that if you decided you wanted to have chickens, that would just fall under that normal chicken permit that we allow everyone to have. In terms of greenhouses or other structures, again, that's why I put the green lines on there so that the property owner could understand that there is pretty limited space now for structures. We do require them to be 5 feet from the property line. This would be no different. And So any structures would have to have a building permit, would have to meet the Kentucky Residential Code requirement for accessory structures. One thing, and I hope you don't mind, I'll bring it up, one thing that we have discussed is the possibility of an addition in this space of a lean-to type greenhouse, so I'm trying to research that to see if that's a possibility for her to do in this little inset right here.
Yeah, because I do recall with the auxiliary structure that there is a space requirement between the
There is.
building as well. Yeah.
Would,
It is 5 feet, yeah. So what we talked about is it's really gonna be contingent upon building materials and how can we classify that? And so, you know, I have started looking into, is that a possibility to do again, it would be more attached to the building. It's not really a detached structure at that point, it would be attached. But any detached structures are going to be required to meet those city's requirements.
I do have a question. When we're talking about accessory structures, like, I'm guessing someday you would want a high tunnel. Would that be considered an accessory structure? Because it's you can take that apart pretty easy and move it.
So the code addresses temporary structures as anything that's going to be up for more than 180 days. And it also has a size requirement. So high tunnel, the size requirement for residential use is 200 square feet. That's kind of that limit that we say whether you need just a zoning permit. So now we just need to look at how it's anchored down and where you're placing it on the lot. Or does it need a building permit, and we may possibly need the engineering on that structure.
So anything over 200, then you have to get the engineer's stamp,
Would
correct?
have to get an engineer's stamp on it. You know, one thing she talked about was maybe a low tunnel, something that.
Like roll covers.
Yeah, just like a low crop cover almost thing
Yeah.
that is very portable. Again, if it's portable, I probably don't look at that the same as I don't look
Yeah.
at that the same as a accessory structure.
Got it.
So does that include the beds themselves?
I do not look at those as
Well,
structure.
I just thought I heard her say they were permanent.
They're not raised bed. They're they're in-ground bed. Just like I would not step on them. They once I establish that space as a bed, they become they're permanent. They're always like crop growing on it. So I don't step on it. So there will be no compaction for the bed.
Amanda, another question about livestock. I know now that according to the federal government, honeybees are considered livestock. What do we think about that? I mean, does that fall under, so then would honeybees fall under the livestock category, or can you just have bees?
So it is not expressly named in our ordinance.
Okay.
That would probably be a question that I would need to run by our corporate counsel to see, in my opinion, right now, an answer would be our ordinance is very specific as to what animals you can have in an animal unit.
Got it.
And that, because bees are not on that, I think that then this board could I think it is a possibility that this board could put a condition that they could or could not be permitted. But is bees something that you would ever consider doing? Honeybees?
I'm pretty scared of bees.
Okay.
but I, so
Like, no.
No?
Anybody else want
So
to come up and
that's-
speak on?
That's the first thing to ask, right? So that if they're not interested in doing that.
yeah, but
then-
I hope I didn't interrupt you.
No, no,
but I
you're fine.
do. I am interested in raising laying hens, raising chickens. But Rusty, my neighbor, actually have talked to me specifically, told me that he really, really doesn't like chickens.
Okay.
So, and I would not, do something that upset my neighbor that much just for some eggs. I can buy eggs from, my chicken friends. I don't have to do it myself. So, yeah, that would be my answer to his concern. Like, if a chicken is really such, make him upsets him so much, I would not have it. So, yeah. As for building structures, I would absolutely follow the city's rule about where can I put buildings and what kind of codes should I follow. Absolutely. For now, the first year, I do not have any intention on building structures. I think I talked with Amanda about building a lean-to greenhouse, but right now my solution is to I have a seedling shelf, indoor shelf that I grow seedlings, so I do not need a greenhouse this year. Possibly in the future, I'm not sure if I'll have one or not, but if a greenhouse is a problem, then I can always always expand my indoor seedling shelf. Right now I have one shelf. I can build like more in the future if I need more space. So I do think there are many solutions to potential concerns here. So yeah, that's my answer. It may be possible for me to have a high tunnel in the future. But I would, of course, build it within the limit and consult the city if it's over 200 square foot.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak on this?
I was a little confused
Oh.
about the lean-to. If the lean-to is attached to the structure, then she wouldn't need to come back and see us? And if it was moved 5 feet away, she would have to come back for a permit?
So either way, she's going to come to our office for any structures that she builds. And the Kentucky Building Code and our local ordinance has requirements to deal with how close they are to property lines. And also, one thing I did not mention is really a total number of accessory structures that you can have. So our regulation says that in the yard area, well, for her, that's really only her backyard that she could even put an accessory structure, that you can only have 25% of your yard area in accessory structures. So I don't know what the square footage of this little area is, but 25% of that is really about all she's going to be allowed to have in accessory structures total, because that's the only open yard area that she has available that would meet the 5 feet from the property line and 5 feet from the house and not in this building setback line. So I can just do some quick measurements here. And I'm gonna go to where I think the property line probably is. So it would be just easy math, less than about 800 square feet of accessory structures that would even be permitted.
Thank you.
Well, and then we've got driveway area and all that. That's gonna be a little harder to, put high, she's not gonna put a high tunnel on that, so. Or I don't
Yeah.
think she is.
It's hard to grow.
It's hard to grow.
From concrete.
On concrete, yep.
Okay.
Do I read this correctly, that you're gonna have 30 foot by 3.5 feet parking beds in your yard?
Yes, yeah.
That yard will hold that many?
What?
Will the yard hold that many with the space she's talking about?
Oh, I think that's the bed. That's the standard size of bed. I hope to build as many as I can. But for like space, so for a standard size bed, I hope it's 30 feet long and 3.5 feet wide. But for space, if for one section I only have like 20 feet left, then that bed will be 20 feet long. So, you know, I
was
just,
reading that you were gonna have 30 of those. Would that yard hold 30 of those?
I don't think so. I don't think it will be a whole if it's whole, okay, I actually made a plan of bed space. I don't know if you all can see the graphs there, but for those you can see some beds are really short, especially in the northeast plot. That's really because I don't have space there. So if it's 30 in total, it's because some beds are actually shorter to
That clears
make it, yeah, to make it work.
You'd have them inside your house.
I do.
Do you?
Well, the chair would welcome a motion. Unless we have any more questions, or if anybody else would like to have anything to say on this proposal. You'll have to come in and be sworn in if you want to speak. And share your name and address.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Andrew Carrick, 114 Woodford Avenue.
Thank you.
Berea.
Thank you.
I'm not against bees at all, but my hesitation for you personally is that there are some lawns that use poisons, and it's just I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it might be a hesitation if they use poisons in their gardens for like dandelions or things like that. Because bees would be picking up the poisons, and I know you want to do what's it called? Organic. So that was my only. I just wanted to make a comment, not a hesitation for you, just information. Because I had a bee thing. I was thinking of doing that. Too much poisons around, so I gave it away. Nothing against anything you're doing.
Yeah, we had a hive that I blame it on the neighbor's Roundup, but who knows? But yeah, it didn't survive.
I had 2 times in a row. Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
Mr. Ch-
saying that also is the reason why I choose to grow food organically, because if we look at the statistics of bee population and butterfly or wild pollinator population, we see sharp decline every year. So I really want to do my part to be part of the solution here. So.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
Great.
All right, I move that we approve the conditional use application for an urban farm in an R1 zone for 214 Laurel Drive. And I guess the condition would be that access for folks who come to pick up their produce needs to be on Woodford Drive, or is that Woodford Avenue?
Avenue.
Woodford Avenue.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries for a conditional use permit in an urban farm, for an urban farm in an R1 single-family residential zone for 214 Laurel Drive, with the condition that any farm pickups would happen on Woodford
Avenue.
Avenue. Thank you. Yes. Great. And with that, I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
You know, if Dairy Queen decides to go organic, you might have a partner on the